was my first experiment with working in the format of a solo performance show. Previous to this, I've been a video artist, I guess, and done other various kind of installation, painting, drawing projects. So this is the first time that I have created a solo work for the stage. The loose premise of the performance is that the audience has come to a seminar on how to make friends, and that's a very, very loose premise that I have kind of used to glue together a bunch of different jokes and participation-based elements and videos into kind of a performance experience for the audience. So I play a character, Kenzie. I use my own name in the performance, and I'm kind of this quite misguided, quite abstracted version, hyper-real version of, I guess, a motivational speaker. So I'm talking directly to the audience and expecting them to respond to me. There is some audience participation elements, but yeah, it's kind of more of an expose on this kind of bizarre character that I've created also, who doesn't have any friends. Oh, I just revealed the big spoiler, which is not really a big spoiler. I developed a series of different performances for a live night that I was running for the past year called Club Cabsav, just kind of like an alternative kind of comedy, entertainment performance night that would happen. And basically I would get an idea to make a video, and then I would try and work out what kind of context this video would exist within and see if I could make that as absurd as possible, because I find with the stage you only have to give the audience a tiny little bit to justify what you're saying and doing, and they'll just make up the rest, and that's what's really exciting about the stage. So I'd create this video, and then I'd build a performance around it, and then I'd perform it at this short works night, and then I kind of had a series of these things based on different stories and different videos, different ideas. And then I just stitched them all together with the idea of friendship. The first video that kind of got the ball rolling on this was I saw Beyonce do her Billboard Music Awards performance, where she kind of did this choreographed dance piece to a really large scale, animated, crazy projection. And it was totally mind-blowing, and I kind of thought that's a really cool idea, and she did it really well. Why don't I try and do exactly the same thing with my limited amount of skills and zero dance experience? So I kind of recreated that video and kind of remixed the song, so it was kind of about how I ran the world. And then I kind of tried to develop a premise for that video to exist within a performance format, which I decided was, well, what if it turned out that Beyonce had stolen my identity as a child and we went to school together, and then the proof was that she had ripped off this idea. It was also around the time where Beyonce was kind of getting in trouble for stealing other people's dance choreography. That premise didn't end up making it into the final performance, the show that I'm doing now, but the video is still in there, and that's kind of the finale. And that's loosely weaved in there. And then the second video that I used as well was about, I just thought the idea of pet rocks were really funny, and I thought, what if you were somewhere and, you know, the idea of Oprah giving people free gifts and everyone going crazy, and what if you were at something and you got one of those free gifts but it was crap, like a pet rock, which is, you know, not that great, but people like getting free gifts, and that reveal element is really nice, and no one kind of expects that. So I experimented with, I made a video about pet rocks and why you would have a pet rock, and then experimented with performing and kind of giving people these pet rocks. Yeah, because I like to incorporate the audience, I really like acknowledging the audience in performance and giving them a role, almost casting them in the performance. All of this stuff has been developing for a while, and it's kind of had a few different formats that it's gone through, but it's all kind of made it into this show. And I think this show is basically because I'm not really sure, I've made this show because I have an interest in doing so many different things that across so many different formats, and I thought that this could be a really good way to glue them all together and give them all a context to exist within and cover all of my interests and make sense to people, because I think people get quite confused with what I do because I do quite a lot of different things. I've kind of realised through doing this, this particular show that popular culture and kind of nostalgia, 90s nostalgia, seems to be popping up a lot in the jokes that I create. Also, I find the idea of creating quite an innocent and naive character who is making all these wild leaps in terms of logic to create a humorous character, but then also making that character quite naively, overtly, explicitly and really weirdly sexual as well, but still with quite a lot of innocence involved, and abstracting ideas of really sexual or kind of blue material into this unsuspecting character. I don't know.
How are they sexual?
Yeah. Well, there's the character is weirdly sexual. There's a part where she talks about fingering. There's a part where she talks about, there's a whole section on like dating, which is basically just an absurd text about the worst way that you could date someone, and it's kind of based on this like romantically conceptual things that you could do to impress someone, but that you never would, because they would think that you were a psychopath. In terms of using comedy, I'm not really sure yet. I guess humour is something that runs through a lot of the other things that I do, like the videos that I make for exhibitions incorporate humour, and like even in sculpture or illustration or installation, whatever I'm doing, I always feel like comedy and humour is quite a big part of whatever I make. And then it just seemed like the next step would be for me to actually be performing that comedy. But having said that, I detest stand-up comedy, so it's kind of like I had to create a new way for myself to feel comfortable to do comedy in, essentially.